Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 6:07 a.m. East Coast time, Friday, August 23rd. Happy Friday to all you weekend warriors. As always, we're going to get into this two-game NFL slate. So we had 6 games yesterday. We have 7 games tomorrow. Nice little 2-game slate. There's still a $15K to first prize pool for the preseason. So everybody, welcome. If you are new here, because on the weekends we do get a lot of new folks, welcome to the channel. My name is Sal Vetri. I do cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL, like you're seeing, MLB, WNBA. Those videos will also be up most likely today, and the NBA, which is sadly not till October. We're going to break down the slate. Before we do, a couple of things. We just reached 6,400 subscribers. Thank you all so much. We did a live stream yesterday around 5:30 for 45 minutes for the NFL slate. I'll be doing that again today. Be sure to tune in. About 130 people. It topped out on at one point. So yeah, be sure to tune in. It'll be right here on YouTube because there's going to be a lot of news that's going to come out later today. Yesterday was like an NBA slate. So much news coming out. It was ridiculous. I loved it. Yesterday went really, really well. JJ Arceo-Whiteside had a ton of him. Had 100% Trace McSorley in all my fantasy draft, all Draftkings. So that went really well. So best preseason day was yesterday for me, definitely. A couple of top 100 finishes. So let's get into this slate. Couple things also down below are my rankings and tiers. They're already up for tonight's NFL slate. I have some things for other sports down below that is on Patreon. You can click the link to get those. And then also my NFL daily fantasy course. A couple of people on the live stream yesterday were talking about it. One person actually purchased it during the live stream who was talking about it. So hopefully you enjoy it. There's 25 people now in there. If you have any questions about the NFL daily fantasy course, you can reach out to me. A lot of them can be answered down below. If you hit the link, there's a lot of descriptions on that on the page. Cool. So that's everything. Hit the subscribe button. I want to get to 7,000 by the end of August. It's a bold ask a week from today, but we're moving at about 70 to 80 people per day during football season. And yeah, kind of bookmark later today, a live stream around 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. So let's get right into it. So right now, quarterback interests. So a couple things are up in the air in general for this slate. We still don't know, and it's like, what time is it here? It is 6:09 Eastern time. We still don't know exactly which teams are going to play their starters for how long. We have news on the Cleveland Browns and Freddie Kitchens saying they're going to play some. They're not playing any next week, which is very common. But him telling us they're going to play some is not great. But what we do know is Freddie Kitchens does not stand by the motion that you have to play your starters a half or 3/4, what he said. He's more conservative in that nature, so that doesn't give me as much hope. But Baker said that he is actually pushing to play a full half. If we get news, and hopefully we get some sort of news that the Cleveland starters are going to play the first half, or at least Baker's going to play the first half, then yeah, Baker is the best quarterback on the board without a doubt compared to anybody else. So I have interest in him right now. I am worried that Freddie Kitchens is a little bit more conservative. We'll have to see where this ends up. Again, on the live stream, my tiers will be updated throughout the day based on news, so you can get those. Again, they're active right now, link down below. Second interest is Ryan Griffin. This guy has probably been the best quarterback in the entire preseason right now. I'm just absolutely balling. If he, again, same thing for the Bucs today, depending on Jameis's run. Either way, though, Ryan Griffin should probably, Ryan Griffin's going to be the backup. Blaine Gabbert's probably going to get cut, or if they take 3, he'll be the third string. If you've been watching Griffin, just been fantastic so far. Very good rapport with Tanner Hudson, who's the best tight end on the slate, in my opinion. So yeah, Ryan Griffin would be my favorite quarterback today if indeed the starters for Cleveland and Tampa, meaning Jameis and Baker Mayfield, do not get their full run. David Falls for Detroit would be my third interest. He's kind of a tier below all of this. So if Baker does get a whole half today and Jameis does, those guys are on a tier of their own. Ryan Griffin will be on tier 2. And then tier 3 would be kind of probably similar, just David Falls. Not positive yet, though, if that's where I'm going to go. But look, if there's no Tom Savage again, which as of right now doesn't seem like it, and Stafford's still dealing with this back injury, and I don't think it's smart for them to put him out there. Who cares that it's the preseason week 3? We've already seen from yesterday, no teams really care about playing their starters the whole first half. Starters were getting a max of like a quarter of run yesterday. So I don't think that this preseason week 3 thing exists anymore. So David Falls, if indeed he gets the same exact situation that he was in last week with no Tom Savage, no Matt Stafford, and he gets to play the whole second half. Well, he went 12 of 19, 226 yards and a touchdown last week in that same exact run. Now he's going to get the Bucs second and third and stringers, which is just their first stringers are terrible. Now you get the second and third, not much there. So look, not a ton of interest in David Falls, but he is going to be in play today. As of right now, that's it. I'll have more interest in Jameis Winston if we get more news about their run. I'll have more interest in a Josh Allen from the Bucs if we get more news about his run. But outside of the backups for, not the Bucs, the Bills, outside of the Bills backups, Matt Barkley, Tyree Jackson, and Josh Allen, if they continue to all see this quarter of play, and then Matt Barkley and Tyree Jackson split up the last 3 quarters, it's too much distribution is what I wrote. Now, Tyree Jackson does have rushing upside, ran 8 times last week for 27 yards, so that probably jumps him at least into my tiers later today, but not sure anything special. So that's quarterbacks on the 2-game slate. Pretty easy, pretty smooth. Let's go to running backs. So we'll start with Cleveland. I don't expect Nick Chubb to play much at all if he even plays. Dontrell Hilliman can be interesting, or Hillard can be interesting today. But Dearnson Young, guy just balled out last week. 10 rushes for 53 yards. He got 3 balls for 26 yards and a touchdown, 13 overall opportunities, 13 overall touches. And it's been reported, and they came out and said about 2 days ago, maybe it was, 2 days ago, that right now Dearnson Young has kind of played himself onto the roster. Freddie Kitchens is raving about this guy. There's a shot that he can actually push for the backup job until Kareem Hunt comes back. Dontrell Hilliard, he is going to be sort of that change of pace Duke Johnson guy, it seems. So there's a good chance that Dearnson Young is the Nick Chubb primary backup, with that change of pace guy being Hilliard. Still no worries about Nick Chubb he is a first round pick in season longs for me right now. If you're in a 12-team league, I'm fine if you get to him at 10, 11, 12. Even if you push up for him at 8 or 9, I think that's absolutely fine if you want a running back. But Dearnson Young for the preseason right now seems like, at least on this slate, if not the best option, a top 2 option, but probably in line for the most work. Tampa Bay guys, Dar Ogunbowale has been getting work back-to-back weeks. Last week he got 16 overall opportunities, touched the ball all 16 times, 13 on the ground, 3 times in the air, 3 receptions for 54 yards. Overall last week he went 16 for 84 yards or 88 yards. Now, don't expect that again, but he's likely going to see the most run. Ronald Jones Jr., it came out that he has knee inflammation. After the last game, he's been dealing with some knee inflammation. I don't know how quickly that inflammation can go down. He practiced on Wednesday. I think he practiced limitedly on Tuesday, and the same exact thing happened yet on Wednesday. So we have to watch this. If indeed Ronald Jones Jr. is out, there's going to be even more run for the Tampa Bay backups. I'm not really concerned about Peyton Barber. I don't think he gets too much run. So guys like Dar Ogunbowale, who saw a ton of touches last week, can potentially see more. And guys like Andre Ellington, who's a piece of Bruce Arians' system, and Bruce Arians loves Ellington. Now, Arians and Ellington are in Tampa Bay. They were both in Arizona when Ellington was a younger rookie. Ellington sneakily had 10 touches last week for 29 yards. He wasn't efficient with them really, but 6 on the ground for 15 yards, 4 in the air on 4 targets for 10 yards. Still got 10 touches. Like we said, he's an Arians guy. If indeed Ronald Jones Jr. is out, I think that helps Ellington even more as sort of the sneaky play at running back, where for the most part today on a 2-game slate, the running back depth is actually pretty decent in depth, but he would be sort of your contrarian type play. 10 touches is a good amount to talk about. It's very sneaky in a preseason game to see that. It just gets overshadowed by Dar Ogunbowale's 16 touches last week. So both of those guys are interesting to me. Dar definitely more interesting. And keep an eye on Ronald Jones. That'll kind of affect my tiers and ranks. Devin Singletary for Buffalo, he had 7 opportunities last week, so it might not seem like he did much because he only had 2 carries for like 4 yards or whatever. I think that was the actual carries, but he actually had 7 opportunities. So 2 of them were on the ground, 5 were in the air. He had 5 targets, caught 3 of his targets for 25 yards. I doubt he continues to see that little of a run on the ground. Now you have Frank Gore ahead of him. You have LaShawn McCoy. I think Singletary by halfway through the season will be the starting running back for the Buffalo Bills, if not a quarter of the way through. Frank Gore is just an old man at this point. He's going to jump him on this depth chart. And he probably jumps LaShawn McCoy, who just doesn't even want to be in Buffalo. Singletary is right now a guy that you should be drafting in your season longs. If he's on the waiver wire, go pick him up and drop that dusty old backup tight end or 5th, 6th string wide receiver that is not going to do anything for you. But Devin Singletary, I have a lot of interest in. The guy is just so versatile. He is their rookie running back pick, the guy who they think is going to be the next LaShawn McCoy in their offense, if not better. He's going to have opportunities like we saw last week, 5 opportunities in the passing game. If he just has a little bit more on the ground, and I expect that to happen, especially in this week 3 where they're going to probably give him a little more extended run. Singletary is the most talented running back on this slate. He might be the most talented skill player, including the wide receivers, including the tight ends on this slate as well. Ty Johnson for Buffalo. So Buffalo, Detroit, if anything, I'm not getting to their running backs. You had guys like Dar Ogunbowale playing 20-plus snaps. Same things for Dearnson Johnson playing close to 30 snaps. He might have played 30 snaps last week. I didn't see the official report. But then Detroit, their running backs are just all split up. You had 8 snaps for Kerryon Johnson, 8 snaps for C.J. Anderson. You had Zach Zenner playing 12 snaps. You had Nick Baldwin playing 13 snaps. You had Mark Thompson playing 9. And then you had Ty Johnson, the rookie running back. He led everybody, but only with 17. So he led by 4 over Nick Baldwin. Then you had still a very big bulk of guys between 4 other guys between 8 and 12. So nobody broke away last week. Ty Johnson with his 17 snaps got 4 carries for 11 yards, and he caught his only target for 11 yards. So 5 touches for 22 yards. Not terrible for a preseason game, but compared to Ogunbowale, who should see more work, even Andre Ellington, Singletary, Dearnson Young, it's tough for me to get there or recommend it too much. Mark Thompson on his 9 snaps was very efficient. 5 rushes for 25 yards and a touchdown. Also caught a ball. So, 9 snaps, he had 6 touches for 31 yards and a touchdown. So right now, Thompson obviously stands out as a guy who's efficient with his touches, but that type of efficiency is really hard to kind of sustain when you're only playing 9 snaps and the running backs are just all spread out. You also take into account that it's week 3. Maybe carry on sees instead of 8 snaps, 10 snaps. Maybe CJ Anderson instead of 8 snaps, he's 12. And right there, you're just pulling so many from these other guys because there's too much depth. So Ty Johnson, Mark Thompson, the guys to note in the Detroit backfield. But really, honestly, their opportunities might be half of what you're going to get. They probably are half of what you're going to get from all the other guys that listed above. Wide receivers, all right, if you're still watching, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. I want to get to 6,500 subscribers. Share it with a friend, whatever you got to do. You could also follow me on Twitter at SalvetriDFS. I posted so many updates last night because there's so much late news coming in. All right, wide receivers, obviously always going to be the biggest piece in terms of how many options I think are valuable. This is going to be the biggest piece for my tiers. So if you are interested, you can go down below to Patreon to get my tiers. And again, if you have any questions on the NFL course, that is also listed down below. So we'll start off with Chris Lacey. I put Chris Lacey in as a Z instead of a Y for yes or an N for no, just so he pops to the top of the filtering in terms of alphabetically. So Z just for me means maybe. He had 27 snaps last week. He's on the bubble, but he hasn't done anything in the preseason. He's gotten a lot of hype from Slay out there, the cornerback that he faced all of last year in terms of the scout team during practices, but only 1 catch, 8 yards on 3 targets last week. Again, he had the 4th most snaps out of the wide receivers, and he's battling for a roster spot. 27 snaps overall. He's not a guy that I lean to get to the most, but in terms of GPPs, he's probably a sleeper type play just due to the amount of snaps he's playing and his overall upside. I think he's just getting hurt by the quarterback play out there. No, Matt Stafford is definitely hurting him, and then the depth at quarterback is not the greatest for Detroit. Rashard Higgins has been the guy who's kind of just blowing up the preseason. 2 weeks so far, he's been great. He is probably right now on this slate in terms of wide receivers, a top 2 to 3 option, if not the best play on the slate. I'm getting so much run in terms of 30-plus snaps. Red zone work, overall targets are up. I think he caught 4 balls for 50-something yards last week. The week before that also had a touchdown. So, yeah, Rashard Higgins is probably top 3-4 guy, or top 2-3 guy in the slate. Jalen Strong also had a touchdown last week, having some targets. He's pushing for a top 4 wide receiver spot. Right now it seems like it's going to go OBJ, Jarvis Landry, and then 3 Rashard Higgins. Jalen Strong's pushing for that 4th spot, overshot Antonio Callaway. It should be noted that they signed Braxton Miller, the Browns, but I don't think Braxton Miller is going to make any major impact, at least not today. So keep an eye on Braxton Miller, though. He's a sneaky type of player who can get a lot of snaps today just because they just signed him. You don't sign a guy just to cut him without letting him play. So another guy that I didn't kind of put in here because he hasn't had a sample size yet, former Texan. But Braxton Miller should be a guy that if you sign him, you probably want to see what he can do in line potentially today to play a lot of snaps, especially because I don't expect OBJ to play, and I really don't expect Jarvis Landry to play. Antonio Callaway definitely probably not going to play. He's injured and suspended for the regular season. Tampa Bay, a couple of guys on Tampa Bay stand out. Justin Watson, again, back-to-back weeks for Watson of really good target share. I think he has 13 total targets in the preseason, 6 last week, only caught 2 for 22 yards. But again, the opportunities are all that I care about. The fact that he is kind of the 3rd or 4th, probably the 4th wide receiver on this team right now and continuing to get a lot of work. I like that a lot. Bobo Wilson, 7 targets last week. That's hard to ignore. 2 catches for 48 yards. Again, opportunities are all that you want. You want snaps and you want targets. His snap count was up there, so the targets being high makes sense. It's sustainable. It's not like he only played 14 snaps and had 7 targets, and that's not sustainable. No, his snap count is sustainable. I have interest in Tampa Bay's Scotty Miller, who returned to practice. Look, he's a speedster. He's a burner. He's a guy who Bruce Arians has been kind of begging to get back on the field as he deals with this hamstring injury. He returned to practice. If Scotty Miller is going to be a full go today, I'm going to have a ton of interest because, 1, nobody will know who he is except for the 1,000 of you that watch this, but nobody will know who he is. 2, he doesn't have a sample size yet, but he is a good player who's going to get extended run since he hasn't played in the first 2 games. Yes, that's where I'm at on that. Buffalo, a couple of guys. Cole Beasley, he's only going to be interesting to me if the starters get more run. Yes, everybody's going to see the 5 catches for 44 yards on 5 targets last week with Josh Allen. That happened on 2 drives. Look, it could happen again, but 2 drives is a very small sample size. It's like 12 snaps, or 14 snaps at most. So if you're going to play a guy with that little upside in terms of opportunity, you have to have that happen again. So like his ceiling, if he doesn't score a touchdown, is like those 9.4 points, and that is a high ceiling, 5 catches on 2 drives, especially on all of the targets. So I don't think that type of efficiency sustains unless they play more. I'm probably not going to be getting to Cole Beasley unless we get news that they're going to play more than just 2 drives as starters. Duke Williams is the guy in Buffalo that I would want. Didn't do much week 1, but has had a good camp. 3 catches for 38 yards and a touchdown on 4 targets, and he saw a significant snap increase last week. Andy Jones on Detroit led all wide receivers last week in terms of overall snap count. Huge. 52% of the snaps Andy Jones played. He caught 2 balls for 60 yards on 5 targets. Those 52% of the snaps equivalent to 35 offensive snaps. I can't overestimate how big that is. Brandon Powell was also, if you remember Brandon Powell, he was second in the wide receiver snaps behind Andy Jones. He had 31 instead of 35, so pretty high up there. It was in the mid 40s. It's like 45%. 3 catches for 53 yards, 6 targets is a thing that I like a lot. So high interest in Brandon Powell and Andy Jones from Detroit due to opportunities overall from targets and snap percentage. Detroit, the other guys, so we talked about Chris Lazy's 27 snaps, were 4th on the team. 3rd on the team was Travis Fulgham, I think it is, or Fulgham. 28 snaps last week, caught 3 balls for 52 yards on 4 targets. So the 4 wide receivers who should get any sort of extended run. I don't think Marvin Jones Jr. plays today, dealing with an injury. Kenny Golladay shouldn't play today. We'll see if they play any of their starters that have been battling injuries, but Kenny Golladay definitely shouldn't play today. If he does, it won't be much. So the 4 wide receivers in Detroit that are worth a damn are Brandon Powell, Travis Fulgham, Andy Jones, and Chris Lacy. Andy Jones and Brandon Powell have been the ones that have stood out so far, and they definitely lead overall in snap count. The other guy I'll note, that's everybody that I'm interested in. The other guy I'll note is Spencer Schnell. If you remember, Spencer Schnell had like 7 catches on 9 targets for 119 yards week 1, playing with Ryan Griffin in Tampa Bay. Did nothing last week. So here's the thing. In week 1, he played the entire 4th quarter. That's where he got all of that work. He had like 9 targets in 1 quarter. That's not sustainable. 7, like the snaps are not high enough. Last week he did absolutely nothing. And this week you have Scotty Miller returning. And again, he did all of his work in 1 quarter. I don't have much interest in Spencer Schnell, especially as a slot receiver, even though he is a slot, sort of a hybrid Adam Humphries, not a slot like a Chris Godwin's going to be a big receiver who can beat you not only short but deep. Schnell being a guy who can beat you more so short. The 7 for 119 on 9 targets was more so definitely good play, but more so luck in that quarter than anything else, indicated by him doing nothing last week. He might have not even took the field last week, but Scotty Miller coming back is going to push him down. So wide receiver interests are out of the way. Tight ends. I mean, nothing major here. Tight ends, Tanner Hudson has been, like Ryan Griffin's probably been the best quarterback through the first 2 weeks, if we don't count week 3, since that wouldn't be fair to him yet. But Tanner Hudson's definitely been the best tight end. Week 1, he had 9 targets. He had like 7 catches in week 1. He had a touchdown and 80-something yards. Last week, he had 6 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown on 7 targets. The guys had 15-plus targets, or right around there for the first 2 weeks of preseason. Ryan Griffin is going to be out there with him in the second half, or maybe even sooner if you get no Jameis Winston playing. So yeah, Tanner Hudson is by far the best quarterback on the slate tonight. Rico Gathers, I have some interest in if he dresses. Look, the Browns signed Rico Gathers for a reason. They want to see what they have in him, be an athletic tight end from the Cowboys who never got really a chance there. And you have David Njoku, but pairing these 2 guys together would be absolutely freakish. So Rico Gathers, if he's going to dress today, I have some sort of interest in Rico, because I do think he's a good tight end, but he's probably the last on my interest board. But a sleeper for sure, but there's probably a higher upside that he's not targeted or doesn't play than the fact that he scores a touchdown or something along those lines. Tommy Sweeney for Buffalo. You have Tyler Kroft not going to be available most likely for week 1, definitely not for the preseason game tonight. Tommy Sweeney has been seeing the most snaps at the tight end position in these games, and he's been sort of the best in camp outside of obviously Kroft not being able to play. So he should continue to see the most snaps tonight. Caught 2 balls for 47 yards on 2 targets last week. Keep in mind the 47 yards was on 2 targets, so yes, it's good that he's getting targeted, but it's nowhere near the 7 targets that Tanner Hudson saw last week. So TJ Hawkinson, 1 catch for 22 yards on 2 targets, but he'll likely see a little bit more snaps tonight. I would imagine out of all the starters, the rookie giving him a little bit more extended run moving into the regular season, the tight end that you drafted. Look, I don't have much interest in him, but is he a touchdown upside type guy? Yes. Is he going to play much more limited snaps than a Tanner Hudson and potentially a Tommy Sweeney? Yes. So Tanner Hudson stands out as the guy to go to for me. It's probably not that close, to be honest with you. Unless the Tampa Bay starters are going to play the first half, then O.J. Howard becomes the best tight end on the slate. Unless the Cleveland Browns are going to all play the first half, then David Njoku obviously gets a bump. But that is something that we can talk about on the live stream later. If we have that news, that is something that I will update in the ranks and tiers over on Patreon. But for right now, those are my interests. Hopefully this helps you. I did the early morning research today, going to get the WNBA and the MLB videos hopefully out. So thank you. I appreciate you tuning in. Hit the subscribe button before you leave. Drop down below for a comment if you would like. Follow me on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. And then, yes, you can check out that NFL Daily Fantasy course. It is linked down below. My name's Sal. You already know that. Peace out, gang.